And let me get a face going. So, next. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Gary Wagnon. I am the owner of 800 Biz Ninja Marketing and the Ninja Marketing Dojo. My business is helping small businesses like you to to increase their search engine traffic and increase their brand visibility, to help people drive more traffic to their door and convert more browsers into buyers. So that is, we do that with a balanced approach of website design, search engine optimization, and social media marketing, coaching, and training. That's kind of what I do. And just a little bit about me. I am somewhat of a dinosaur in the fact that, um, before I get into that, I guess the question is, I'm on Zoom. How come I can't see myself? This is a webinar. This is not a Zoom meeting. And so as such, the only people you see are the presenters, the panelists. So everybody else is in listen only mode. And so you don't see, that's why you don't see other people in the meeting. Okay. So as I said, I'm a little bit of a dinosaur in the fact that in February of this year, I celebrated 20 years in the digital marketing industry and website design, which makes me about 140 in Google years, something like that. When I started, most of the website and the social media gurus today were playing Mario on their Super Nintendo. So I kind of go back how far I've been. When I started, we had just survived the dreaded Y2K bug. So a little more dreaded than not the outcome wasn't near as bad as the coronavirus or COVID-19. So, but that was happening back then. Back in that time, we used search engines like Alta Vista and Excite and Dogpile. And if you told somebody you were going to Google something, they looked at you like you were crazy. So that is sort of, and the other thing that happened in 2000 when I started this business was hanging chads. We all remember the dreaded hanging chads. So about 2010, I began to trend in social media, how it was becoming effective for marketing, all businesses to use to brand their business. And as I thought, okay, this is something I need to be jumping in on. So when we started with a partner, I started what I call the Tucson Social Media Lab, in which we taught classes on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, blogs, videos, and we had about a 6 cycle that we ran through, and we did that for almost 2 years. I transformed the brand after that into the Ninja Marketing Dojo, because I'm an old martial artist, as you can see from my second picture up there. And that's kind of where I am today. A lot has changed over the years, but one thing that hasn't changed is that businesses are still trying to figure out the most efficient and effective way to build their brand and to market themselves online. And that brings us to Zoom. I started using Zoom in about 2017, I think is early 2017. I started wanting to do some webinars, and as a result, the alternatives that were out there, the GoToWebinars and the GoToMeetings, were a little bit pricey, a little expensive, and cost prohibitive to what I was able to do and wanted to spend. So I came across Zoom and was very impressed with what it offered. It was a welcome relief to the options that were out there. It was a little buggy at first, a little sketchy in the fact that it wasn't as smooth. There was some choppy, and some of the video wasn't the high def it is today. But it was still a viable platform, and so I used it for webinars back for several years, and then kind of quit using it for a little while. But then as all of this social distancing and everything that we're trying to do to keep our businesses going came about, I decided it was time to dust off and get back into it. So there are a couple of different, again, the reason you're seeing this version, some of you that have been on meetings where you're used to seeing everybody's picture in place, well, that's a meeting. This is a webinar. And as such, the reason I like the webinar platform for me and for this format when I'm teaching classes is the fact that I control the screens, I control the content, and I'm not having to share screens or fight over, everybody pop into view and, that kind of thing. It gives me the complete control over what I'm doing. It also gives me better security, which I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes. And it gives me some other features that I like about the platform. So with that being said, you have a couple of options. Oh, before we get started, let me pop up here a little poll for you to answer for me. So if you would take a minute, it's just 2 questions on this little poll. Are you currently using Zoom? And if so, how are you using it for your business? So this just gives us an idea of where we can go to tailor the things that you might be needing as we move forward, and how long this social distancing things will happen, what's going to be like after we get out the other side. But I also think that there are some really cool things about Zoom that as we're beginning to see the capacity and capability it has, I think we're going to see it more and more in our respected businesses, because it just gives us more time to be productive. We save driving 45 minutes across town to do something that we could meet with a client on Zoom in half an hour. So for me, I'm much more productive in the fact that I'm here now. I work from my home and I work from my office, so I'm not out and about, but it does give me the ability to do to have a lot more control and to do a lot more, be productive wise with Zoom. And I see a lot of you have, several of you are using Zoom for a lot of different reasons, so that's good. With Zoom, you have a couple of different options. You have a free version. The free version, you can put 100 people on a meeting. It only lasts for 40 minutes. That's your limitation on a Zoom meeting with the free version. With the paid version starts at $15 a month, and you can put 100 people on there, but you have no limitation for the daily meeting. So you can do 24 hours if you want to do in a meeting. In fact, I was Saturday night, some good friends from Arkansas we used to play cards with all the time, and but I found a online card platform, and I found and then so we set up that, and we set up Zoom, and for 4 hours we played cards. So great fun. It was great to do that and really enjoy that, the abilities that it provided. So there's one option beyond the $15 plan, and that is if you want to do webinars like this, you want to be able to show your presentation, have PowerPoints and slideshows, and and control the audience that way. You can do that. It's an additional $40 for one host only. So, but that's all you really need unless you're doing teams of for some reason. But with one host, you can invite multiple panelists on, like I am today. So I have 3 people in addition as panelists on my on this webinar. So that's for one single host. So if you're going to do webinars, I highly recommend that you do the webinars and go ahead and just pay the money to do that. There is no contract, so you can stop at any time. The webinar is $40 in addition to the $14.95. So it's $55 for the webinar platform when you add the monthly onto it. It does get a little pricey if you need to go over 100. So that is um, but again, if you're putting 500 people on there, which is the next level, then you probably can generate that. Okay. So when you start with Zoom, what you're going to do is you're going to create an account. So, and it's really simple to set up. With Zoom, you're going to just simply log in an account, email a little bit of information about you, and then at that point, you're going to, then you're ready to go. You put in the credit cards, pick the choice you want, and all that. So what I'm going to do is go ahead. I think everybody's voted. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and I'll share results here real quickly. So it looks like we've got a big majority of people are currently using Zoom, and some looks like training and education are a big use right now. Client conversations, a few of you that way, showings, and then some others. So those of you that are using it other ways, maybe if you want to pop how you're using it in the chat, that would be great. We can take a look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get going from there. So let's pull this around. And close the panel off there. Okay. So once you log into Zoom, this is your control. This is your dashboard, as you're going to see. The first thing you want to do is update your photo, because if you're not on live video, like my image on the bottom, which, by the way, the reason you're seeing two images of mine there is because I'm monitoring myself on a second screen. So on a second computer, that's why you see two occurrences of me. And if you see me looking right and left, you'll see that you'll notice I'm looking at different screens and monitoring the questions and things like that. FYI, before I get started really into the nuts and bolts of this, I do my Zoom meetings, my Zoom webinars from a desktop, because there are things that the desktop does that that a tablet or a phone won't do. You can get on the meetings, but there are some restrictions in the Zoom app. So keep that in mind as you're trying to operate and run meetings. You might want to, like I said, might want to use it from a desktop. So, but you want to make sure you get your photo in here, because that's what shows up if you're not live video, like my bottom one here. Put in as much of your information as possible that you want, because if somebody looks at you and they say, who's presenting, and they click on you, then they will see that you're, they can read your bio and a little bit more about who you are and what you're doing. So that just helps people to understand you and your expertise in what you're doing. There are two different components of Zoom. You have meetings and you have webinars. So let's talk about meetings to start with. Meetings are what most people are familiar with. And what has happened with meetings, as Zoom exploded into popularity a couple of weeks ago, as always, the hackers figured out a way to get involved and to hijack meetings. And that's exactly what would happen. People would post their meeting in their Facebook, or they'd post it in some open forum, and the hackers would spot that. They would jump on the meeting. They would come in with screen share active. They would then would drop inappropriate content into the middle of the meeting, make inappropriate chats and things like that. And to Zoom's credit, they jumped on that immediately, and they suspended all other developmental activity of features and address the security right off the bat. Because it was, like I said, it was causing a lot of problems. And so as a result, we now have to do let people come into a waiting room and vet them one time, or in total, if you're comfortable with everybody. Everybody needs a password to get in, and in this case, your invite had the password embedded, so that kept that secure. And then we also have some controls that we can stop screen sharing in a meeting, and we can stop chats in a meeting. So we can kick somebody out of a meeting if there's, if for some reason they're not acting appropriately, or we need to control the situation. So those are some privacy settings that Zoom has implemented, and they have really done a good job of policing everything and keeping it where it's a usable platform. So when you come to Zoom and you want to start a meeting, it's very simple to create a meeting. You just go right here to the blue schedule a meeting button. Now you can do an instant meeting if you want, and just say join a meeting up here at the top, and it uses a personal ID, an ID that it creates for you, and you just send whoever you want to meet with that and say, hey, meet me on Zoom, go join a meeting, type in this username, type in this password, and then you can go. But a lot of times sometimes it's just as easy to schedule a meeting, even if it's a one-on-one meeting. So I'm going to put in, I'm just going to create a new meeting. So I'm just going to say meeting with Brenda. And I can give it a description if you want. If it's going to be a meeting that you're putting out, or a webinar, this goes for a webinar as well, and you want to put out more details about this. Yes, this is the same screen as free version. Everything on here is going to be pretty much the same. There are a few features that are not available to the free version, but this gives you this, for the most part, everything is free. It's the free version as well. You set the date, set the time, you set the duration. Now, this duration is not a fixed in stone duration. It's just really goes out in the invitation to give the person that's coming in an opportunity to see how long the webinar is actually going to be. It doesn't cut you off at the end of an hour. It just keeps going, but it will cut you off if you set an hour and you have a free version. It's going to cut you off at 40 minutes typically, because that's the limit to your time. You can set it to create a recurring meeting, which is what I did for this 2 o'clock. So if you set it as a recurring meeting, you can choose how often, when it's going to repeat, the date, the time, and how many occurrences. So in the case of this particular meeting, I have it set to every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Then it's going to, it'll use the same registration link. And actually, in your cases, those of you that registered will get links to the upcoming events as well, and you won't have to re-register. Just use the link and come on in. So this is great if you're going to do a recurring type of a meeting. I don't have to put in content again. I don't have to create those meetings. I create it once, and it's good to go until the date you say, or the number of occurrences you want to do. And I currently have these scheduled through the end of June. Registration required. This is another a cool feature especially if you're doing meetings with multiple people, because this, number one, it gives you control over who's coming into the meeting. It lets you get their information, so you get their name and their email address. So it gives you the verification that you need there. It also will generate a report at the end of it to let you know who came in, who attended and who didn't. It lets you send the reminder to everyone that registered. So this is the registration required is a really nice feature, and I use it on all of my webinars, and sometimes on the meetings too, just depends. It's going to generate an ID for you. You can create your own password or use the password that it gives you. It is required to have a password. It generates a random one, but I mean, for me, I'll typically just use I'll use the same password each time. So that way, all I have to do is give somebody the meeting ID. And then for the password, I use my phone number, the 7 digits of my phone number. So works great for me. That's the way I do it. But you can do whatever. If you want the host to have video and the participants to have video. So if you choose to have the participants, then everybody is all the little boxes on the screen. I think you can do 49 of them at one time, and you can see everybody live on video. If you choose not to, if you're doing a webinar, obviously there's not that option. I don't have the option to show you on video. I could allow people to talk if I wanted, but I don't have the option to use video. For the audio, I use it's telephone, computer audio, or both. I use both because you never know if you're going to have somebody that can't get in via the computer audio, or they may be driving and want to listen. So that's why I always choose the both option. You can let people join before the host comes in. They're going to join into a waiting room anyway, so that's fine to do. It puts everybody into a waiting room, and then as the moderator, I choose to let them in when I'm ready. So I can let everybody in at once, or I can admit people one at a time. And it gives you in the a participant panel, which I'll show you in a minute. It'll show you the waiting room and who's there, and just gives you a notice that somebody's in there waiting to come in. You can mute the participants upon entry if you want. That means that when everybody comes in, everybody's muted. But meetings, a lot of times you can let them come on in and just say hi, and they'll settle down. And then you can record the meeting automatically if you want. There are 2 options for recording a meeting. You can record it on a local computer. So if you choose that option, it's going to record on your computer that you're on right now, or it's going to record in the cloud. And with the cloud, you have a gigabyte of space, which for me, it typically will hold about 3, maybe 4 webinars when I do them. So I typically record to the cloud, which is what I'm doing with this one. But I just have to then download these onto my computer, and then I can save them and repurpose them elsewhere. Alternative host, this is a little misleading. An alternative host is be someone else that you want to have control of the meeting as well, so they can add, they can change settings or do anything that you can do. But the caveat on adding a host is they have to have a Zoom account, a paid Zoom account, not a free one. So as a result of that, then if you just want panelists, like I have Brenda and Samantha. Now, Samantha could be a co-host an alternate host if I wanted, because she has a Zoom account. But if I wanted to bring someone else in that didn't, then I could not, it wouldn't let me in. So those are your settings. It's simple as that. You go through, you set it up, and then once you save the meeting, it's ready to go. Here's my registration link. So I can copy this. I can copy that link right there, that text, and paste it into an email, send it out, and then everybody then can register. And once they register, the confirmation comes back just like you would have received. So that's how easy it is to invite participants to your meeting. The next thing is, so down here at the bottom, you do have the option of, you can see how many people have registered. So this will keep a count of how many people have registered for the event. And then over here, you can actually click on that list and view who's in there. So it'll give you a list of who all is registered. So you can see how many are there. You have the option to create to do some tweaking to the email. So you can, if you want to confirm the registration, you can see what that's going to look like, and you can change the text in there if you want, and do some formatting to that registration email that goes back, or the confirmation email that goes back. You also have some branding that you can do. So with your branding, you can put in here a banner across the top of the page, and then top of the invitation, you would have seen, if you remember mine when you registered, you would have seen my Ninja Marketing banner across the top. You can put a logo that will show up to the right of the meeting information, and you should have seen one of those as well on the on that when you did your registration. There are size restrictions on that, so you can look at the sizes right here and see what those size restrictions are. So you may have to work within that framework as far as the graphics to create what you want. You can create polls like the one I did. It's simply a matter of you say add. You can ask, you type in the title of the poll that you want it to be, whether it's anonymous or not, and then you type your question here. Answers have to be either single choice or multiple choice, but you don't get a fill in the blank. So it's going to be, a yes or no, or choose one of those answers. But if you choose other, like one of the questions on my poll was, there's not a spot to type in a meaning, elaborate on that. So, but you can have as many questions as you want. You just put in the questions. Once you're done, you click save, and then when you're ready, you'll run the poll. And show you how to do that in a moment. So that's really the setup for the meetings. They're pretty simple. Let's go back up here to my webinars and just talk about the differences in the webinars. So with a webinar, you'll see now I have recurring webinars scheduled for the next, like I said, through I have 22 scheduled through the end of June. Everybody that's registered today is registered for next week's. The cool thing about that, like I said, you put it in once. There's a few differences in the setup of a webinar versus a meeting. So let me walk you through a couple of changes. So here is this webinar. Here's the description. Here's the classes that I'll be doing each week. I selected it to allow Q&A, so I allow question and answers in there. So that's one of the reasons I like the Q&A. It pops up in a separate window that I can, that I can see and monitor what people are asking, and it makes it much easier for me to follow that thread. It's a bigger format, and I can see how many are open, how many are answered, and I can actually, close each one of them so that I can keep track of it. With your brand, here is I can see how many people were. Here's the registration link again for that, same as it was on the other. But with email, with a webinar, you have a lot more control. I can invite email. I can send an email to panelists, which I do. I always establish who's going to be on my panel. That's the people on the right side there that are on the webinar with me presenting. And I send them a link that has their own LinkedIn as a panelist. A confirmation email to registrants. So as soon as you register, you got a confirmation email, and I can change the wording of that. I set mine up to send a reminder email 1 hour and 1 day before the webinar. So I want to give people the opportunity to be able to jump on and see, make plans to see tomorrow's webinar if they want, and then a reminder at 1 hour away so they don't have to go hunting for that link. Because if you're like me, you've got 500 emails and in a day, and now you're trying to find the one to get on the webinar, and it's frustrating. So you just got to look back an hour and you have it there. You also have, I can send a follow-up to attendees and absentees. So I can send an email that said, sorry, you weren't able to make it. If you want to listen to the replay, you can use this link and go see the replay. Same branding features. Here's the branding features that were on that particular the email registration that you got. I've created polls. Question and answers are here. I can also add questions that I want as people are signing in. So I can have specific questions, ask them more information. So right now, the default on a registration is name, first name, last name, email address. But if I want more information, like for example, um, I want to know company name, or I want to know something specific, a job title or anything like that, then I can plug that in as well in my registration so that I get more information about who's registering and who's attending. And then the last thing that you get with a webinar versus a meeting is you get to live stream to Facebook, YouTube, or Facebook workshop. So right now, the Facebook live stream is not acting very good to me. It seems to not want to log in, and I think there may have been some algorithm changes within Facebook to within their API to keep the not let it work. So I've got to explore that. I may just go to streaming it to YouTube, to my YouTube channel instead. But that is an option, and it does make it handy so that it's you expand your reach outside of your own personal sphere of people that may know you, the people that are following you on YouTube or Facebook. That's pretty much the way the setup works. When you're ready to go, you hit the start, launch the webinar. Now, in a webinar, I can set mine in practice mode before I do, so I can get all of my settings right, make sure everything looks good, make sure everything is acting accordingly. And then I can, from there I can launch the broadcast. So it has a lot of features that, that are helpful to you to get things set up and make sure you're not trying to jockey different screens, and make sure everybody can see it, and wherever you can test it beforehand. It does keep track of your previous webinars. So for example, if I want to look at a webinar that I did, I can go down and I can see how many attendees there were, and I can view the report of the attendees. So I can get all the information. It generates a CSV file, a spreadsheet format, and I can so I can generate that format. It'll tell me who attended, who registered, who attended, and who didn't attend. And so I can plug that in and follow up with them if I want. I can send them a link to say, hey, here's the replay. Go back and watch since you didn't make it, you can go back and watch the replay. Really cool feature. This is available on a meeting as well as on a webinar. So those are both features of that. You can also see your recordings. So I can go here to recordings, and I can, here's if I want to play the recording of a particular webinar, I can share the link right here, and it will go out to anybody I want to send it to, and they can see the replay of my webinar. I can also download it from here, and when I download it, then I can put it on my local computer, and then I've got it. Once space is prohibitive on my cloud. So that's the settings. That's kind of the setup. There's a lot of features in the setting, but they get a little convoluted, and most of them you don't really need to know. So let me walk you through what the platform actually looks like, so that you can kind of see it in action here. And let's see here. I need to stop share, and then I want to get a new screen. Okay, so I should be, yeah, that's where I am. Okay. So with this screen, I have this is actually a photo that I'm sharing with you. So you'll actually be able, I can't get the bottom row of icons to work if I share screen. So I took a picture of it so I can show you what they look like and kind of walk you through it. Yeah, I'll do that, and I'll show you that in a moment, Beverly. That's one of the little tricks I like. So I'll show you that in a few minutes. She's asking about changing backgrounds. So you've got the mute button in your controls. This is how you test your audio and set your mic and set your speakers. The start video is if you don't want to be on screen at the time. For example, when I was recording this piece, I didn't want to be on the screen at that time. So I just stopped my video right here. I can restart it by just simply clicking that and opening my video again. The security feature is right here. This is where you can lock the meeting. If you know everybody's there, you want to make sure everybody gets in. If you maybe publicize the link and you're not sure, want to be safe, you can lock the meeting. You can set all the parameters of who can share screens, who can get involved in chat. So all of those are things that you'll be able to do from the security panel. It used to be buried up in the another spot, and you had to sort of set it outside of the parameter of the meeting. This is one of the changes that just took place last Monday, I believe it was. You can manage your participants. When you do that, you get a screen that shows everybody everybody that's on the webinar, and if they raise their hand, you can see their hand raised. You can mute them in a meeting. So let's say that I was doing a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I kept hearing a crackling sound and a kind of a noise, and I went in and started muting until I found who was doing it, and said, hey, you know, Tom, I was getting some noise from your phone, so I just muted you. So if you want to interject something, raise your hand and I'll unmute you. So you can control that if you're getting noise that's distracting. And that does that operates from the participants panel. You can launch your poll from right here. So this one is where you launch your poll. This is where you can click the chat. When you click that, it opens up a chat box on the side, and that way you can see as people are asking questions or maybe have comments to make. That's where that comes from. You can share your screen, which is what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. You can start the record, and then you can actually do breakout rooms, which I'll talk about as well in a few minutes for you. So that's kind of what this panel looks like. I'm going to, here we go. All right, so this is the participants panel right here, as you're seeing. With the participants panel, right now there's only me, and you can see in the video is not set. But if I wanted to mute everybody in the chat, I could mute all, I could unmute all, or I could mute a particular person. So like you said, there would be a spot up here, a big blue button that says mute. I can mute people in entry, or however you want to do it. So that's some of the some of the things that happen within the participants panel. Okay, so you wanted to know the cool features. I know you guys are interested in the fun stuff. So the virtual background is one of the coolest features that you can do, because what it does is it actually cuts out the background from your image, from what you're doing. I'll take mine off in just a minute and show you what you would see behind the curtain if you want. But this is how you get to that. So you click on the arrow beside your start video, and you do choose virtual background. And when you choose the virtual background, this is the screen you come to. It's got a few presets. So you'll see right here, in mine, it has the Golden Gate Bridge and this grass and the Corona thing here, and then this thing the Aurora Borealis, and then a beach scene. So those are preset ones that you can plug in. But if you want to make your own, then all you have to do is create an image, and you say the little plus button right here, and you can hit that and upload any image that you want. And when you do that, you just click, instead of none, you click the background you want. It automatically pops it in place, and there's your background. Now, word of caution, typically you do mirror my video, and it's typically set to mirror what you're seeing. So don't be fooled. If you look at, when you see like my background, for example, what you're seeing is the ninja and the star and all that spelled the right direction. What I see is it backwards. So don't get confused if you see that. If you got words on that background and you see it backwards, don't be don't be fooled and get all excited because it's showing the right way outward, just inwards is acting up. So I'll show you that in just a second. And then this is the difference in the webinar panel and the meeting panel. So in the webinar panel, you have, in the webinar panel, most of everything is the same. I have the Q&A here that I can control, the poll, the share, everything here is the same. I do have the ability to write on the screen if I want. I can allow remote control. I can allow remote control to someone else. So if I want to turn over the controls of a PowerPoint or a slideshow that I'm doing, then I can hand over the controls to somebody else and then take them back. So it's pretty much the same. There are a few features that you have here that you don't have with the webinar, but for the most part, you have some cool features there. All right, so I'm going to stop my share. And now I'm back to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you peek behind the curtain. And so I make sure nothing back there is too untoward that you can't, no one made bad back there, Brenda, like somebody on one you did or whatever. So I'm going to go none. And here's my office. Oh, I have a headphone in the way, but here's my office. So this is what you see without being, without the virtual screen behind me. Now, would you rather go to the beach? We can go to the beach if you feel like beach weather for you. So this is how, you can play around with it, and make your own. Let me give you the dimensions, because there are specific dimensions if you're going to create your own background. And the dimensions are, they're in pixels. So if you're familiar with working in pixels, the minimum they can be is 1280 pixels wide by 720 tall, or 1920 by 1080. And this is a 6:9 aspect ratio. So if you're not sure what that means, and I know that's Greek to most of you, there is a thing called an aspect ratio generator. So you put in the size of your photo, the width of the photo, and it'll tell you what size it needs to be to fit in the dimension. So it shows up here. So you can do a lot of things with, this is, let me plug this one in. This one I had to play with a little bit. It was a little out of proportion, but I had to play with it. This is my backyard. So, so you can make your own, do whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. So that's the virtual background, and it's pretty cool. So from there, the other thing you can do is I can go to, I have a whiteboard that I can actually use as well. So if I want to write on the whiteboard, you can do that. You can type on the whiteboard. So the whiteboard feature is something, and it is in both. It's the aspect ratio is 16:9. I might have said 6, but it's 16, 16:9 is the way it is. So somebody, Sandy, yes, I use an external mic. I do have a webcam, and it has a mic on it. I'll use a Logitech webcam, but I use a mic, but I do a lot of video. And so with that, I like the extra clarity that the webcam gives me. That the microphone gives me, but you can do it with the webcam on your computer. So that's not a problem. So, but it's just, like I said, I do a lot of video, and I have video editing software. I have a full set of lighting here in my office and microphones and the whole thing. So that's why I use the external mic. Okay, let's see here. What else do we do? Oh, breakout rooms. Let me talk about breakout rooms for just a moment. Breakout rooms are available in meetings, not in webinars, okay? But what you can do is you can create a breakout room. So let's say you're facilitating a team, and you've got a couple of committees. So you can create a breakout room for each committee, and then you can assign the members of the committee to that breakout room. And so what they do is they each go to the breakout room. They have time, they can discuss and talk back and forth between each other. You can't communicate. You can't talk to all the breakout rooms at once. But what you can do is drop in on the breakout room and talk to them there, and then leave the breakout room, go to another. You can message everybody at one time and say, hey, your 5-minute warning, we're going to come back in it in the next 5 minutes. So, but breakout rooms give you the way to get a lot of extra, facilitate those meetings that you can't do face to face. So those are kind of cool things to do. You can do a PowerPoint presentation. So you can, if you want to do a PowerPoint, that's really fun to do, and it's a great way to do that. But one of the cool things, and I'm going to show you the other thing I really think is super fun and cool with this, is I'm going to shuffle my screen around a little bit so I make sure I don't stomp over the top of this. So I'm going to do a share screen, but what I'm going to do is I'll share a video. So I can share this video with music if I want. But think about this. Okay, so you've got, and we can't go out and do open houses, but you've got a beautiful home that you want to do an open house for. Why not advertise the open house? Come to the link, come to this link, and somebody comes in, they go, yeah, hey, I'd like to see that house. Okay, hold on a minute. So let's just walk you through this. So are you on Zoom? Let me get on Zoom with you. I'll walk you through the tour of the house. Isn't this a beautiful view? Wouldn't you? I mean, wouldn't this just breathtaking, the view you have? And obviously this house is. And you can, so you can go through the whole thing. This was done with the drone footage, but if you did the inside, you don't even need any music in the background of it. All you walk them through the tour. How cool is that to be able to do something like that with, and to be able to have the power of doing an open house and still, without leaving your home, without invading the privacy and doing the things that we can't do anymore. So that to me is one of the most awesome things that you can do within your, scope of what you do. Other things you can do, let's say, Pioneer is great about marketing materials and the marketing books. You want to do a presentation, pull out Brenda has those marketing books digital. So you pull out you put up the PDF version, you share the screen, and you flip through that PDF version of the marketing book with your prospect. Incredible power. Go over documents with them. Pop up the document that you're going, rather than just say, now look down on line 1. Are you looking at line 3? It's down line 3. Look at that. No, you can be right there and go, see, it's right here. This means this. Gives you the ability to open that communication lines and keep that communication wide open with your clients. So get creative with the way you can use Zoom and do some of the things that it has to offer. It's an incredible tool, and I think you're going to find that as we move forward outside of this time, you're going to use it more and more often. So hopefully you got some good information. I'm going to open it up for questions. If you have any questions, feel free to type those in the question box right now. I'm also going to put a poll up because we're doing a lot of different, we're going to be doing a series of workshops, and I really would like to know what you need what we can do to help you so I can tailor my presentations to fit what you're needing to do. So there's a couple of questions here. I think it's four or five questions. Let me know what are things that are important to you in your digital marketing world. As you're doing that, I'll reiterate the things that I do. I have been building websites for, like I said, 20 years. I've worked with a lot of realtors, realtors' websites, help them get found online. I've worked with them on their social media presence to understand their social media, to figure out how to optimize it. I do things like workshops for all of the different platforms. We're going to be doing an Instagram next week. We're going to do Instagram beginner. The following week, we're going to do Instagram strategies, hashtags, and some really cool cross promotion ideas. In the future, we're going to be doing things like creativity and graphics, using things like Canva, video, LinkedIn, YouTube. So we're going to be doing a lot of the things on these series in the next coming weeks. So I would love to know what your challenges are and how I can help you with those. As always, if you would like any kind of one-on-one help or got questions, feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is 520-861-4821. And you'll find that in the email that I send out to you as well. So feel free to reach out to me. If you've just got questions, you want to know anything about web design or anything of that nature, then I'll be more than happy to talk to you. Just sit down and do a consultation. You know, if it seems like it's a fit to work together, I can help you that way. If not, I've absolutely no problem. So how do you invite people to the meeting? Well, so if you're scheduling a meeting, what you're going to do is you're going to have that, you're going to send them that invitation link. It depends on whether you're inviting them with registration or not. There is in the participants panel on meetings, there is an invite link there. And so all you have to do is, in the middle of the meeting, you click a link and say, hey, let me invite somebody that didn't show up. So you can click that. It'll up your email. It will send them the URL for the meeting. They can click on that, jump on it, and join the meeting right away. I typically want to do it ahead of time so they can get it scheduled. And I know that's what Samantha does as well. She sends out the invitations in advance so that people can then go on and register and come in. But there's several ways to do it. If it's a one-on-one meeting you're wanting to do, just do get them on the phone or on a text message and go, hey, let's do a Zoom meeting. Go to Zoom, click on join meeting, type in this meeting number, type in this password, bang, they're in. Simple. To use a PowerPoint presentation, you're going to just start your PowerPoint somewhere on your computer. Preferably, if you got a second screen, that's ideal to do that way. If you don't, you just create it and you just create it behind your behind Zoom platform, and then when you're ready to share, you just click the share button. It will then pull up it'll say, here's all the things that are available on your desktop to be able to be shared. And one of those is normally the PowerPoint. And so you click that, you start it, you run through the PowerPoint. When you're done, you click stop share and you're back to the screen. It's easy. I mean, PowerPoints are a piece of cake to run. You just, the trick is starting it. The trick is to start it before you start the Zoom meeting. That way, all you have to do is click over to it if you can. If not, it comes up in the PowerPoint window with all the icons and the panes alongside of it, your working presentation, and you just hit start slideshow from there. But that's easy to do. Any other questions? I'll be more than happy to take, any other questions you might have. I'll, hang around and answer anything that you might have. I encourage you to watch for the future, all the future sessions that we're going to be having, because they have I've gotten good feedback from all the topics that we're going to do. Like I said, if we look at, it takes time. 33% of you said taking time to be creative is the biggest challenge. I'm going to talk about how to schedule. I'm going to talk about tools to help you post multiple sites at once. Coming up with content, I'll give you some strategies on that. Graphics, Canva, there's some other cool tools that you can use. Not understanding the various platforms, that seems to be a big challenge for people. And it is. I mean, we tend to jump in there and we go, okay, I got Facebook and I got Instagram and I got Twitter and I got LinkedIn and I got YouTube. Oh my gosh, what do I do? And I don't even know where to start. So I'm not going to do anything. And that's the worst thing you can do. You know, and unfortunately, in looking at the number, 67% of people are using Facebook. That's probably the least effective platform right now, because nothing gets out to the people that are your followers. About 3% do. If you got 100 people that follow your Facebook page, 3 people are going to see anything you post on a business page. So, but it's not to say that it's not useful, because there are some things that are good, and I'll talk about that when we do that session. But there's other things. Instagram right now is probably the hottest property out there. Yes, Gary, there will be a recording available. It'll probably render out sometime later today, and I'll get it out to you in a follow-up no later than tomorrow. So if we have any other questions, anything else that you'd like to know about, feel free to type them in. If you think about something afterwards or a topic that you would like to see, please let Brenda or Samantha know, or you can send them to me directly. We'll be more than happy to entertain that as well. But we're going to tailor these to what your needs are. So thank you guys for coming. Thanks, Pioneer, for sponsoring this and for giving me a platform to do what I love to do, because I really love teaching, and I love this stuff. It changes so rapidly that it keeps me on my toes to be able to keep up with what's going on. So I enjoy it, and it's always fun.
And your past classes are on your website, correct?
I will have the past classes will be on the website, and I will send that in the follow-up link for you. It's going to be on the ninjamarketingdojo.com website. I'm revamping a lot of that video that's there, because some of the content is a little older. So I'm reworking all of that, but it will be available there for you to see. The realtor stuff will be available for realtors. You just have to register for it, because I'm not making it available to anybody that doesn't participate in Pioneer sponsored stuff. So thank you guys for coming in. I'm going to go ahead and I'll leave the poll open for a few more minutes. But if you have any other questions, thanks for coming, and we will look forward to seeing you guys next week for Instagram.
Thank you, Gary.